Okay guys, so coming from my last video when I talked about how I'm personally preparing for a tier 2 and the things that I'm doing with blessings and alternate sets of gear to make sure that I get ready, it's come to my attention that I really didn't explain blessings properly for people and people don't understand the system. So I want to go into a lot more detail in that in this video. I am doing it in one take. I'm going to add some notation to the video as well to hopefully clarify some of these points. But before we get into the video, I just want to say if you're the kind of person that feels like it's too much effort, it's too sweaty, it's a waste of time, then this video is not for you. Feel free to not comment about how much this is a drag or you don't want to do it. If you're the kind of person that wants to maximize your ability to progress into tier 2, then this video is going to really help you to understand that process. Now it's worth noting that the transition from tier 1 to tier 2 doesn't happen overnight. It's not a massively fast process. As you're probably experiencing from tier 1, it can be a slow process to get fully traded and geared. This should be something that you're doing, if you're choosing to do this, over the coming months as we progress towards tier 2. Like I said in the last video, 2-star dungeons are coming first without tier 2 loot, so you've got a lot of time to do this. Now, you don't have to do this by buying traits off the marketplace, but if you are doing that, what I would suggest doing is you sell your accessory traits, things like skill damage boost, skill damage resist, and max health, because those are still netting around the 200 to 400, at least on my server, and that's going to allow you to buy the 10 lucent traits to use on your armor to help boost those blessing stacks. But we'll get into this now with the very basic kind of fundamentals of trading gear and the blessing system. So when you're trading a piece of armor, you can choose to use an epic version, which will give you a 100% chance of upgrading the trait. Or you can choose to use a blue version in tier 1, which will give you a 10% chance. In tier 2, to get the 10% chance, you will need to use a tier 1 epic item. And to get the 100% chance, you'll need to use a tier 2 epic item. Now, every time you fail, when you're trying to use a 10% chance, you will gain blessing stacks. You will gain 40 when you're using a tier 1, a blue into a tier 1, and you will gain 80 when using a tier 1 epic into a tier 2. So this whole process revolves around stacking blessings. For an epic tier 1, to guarantee the trait, you need to use 450 blessing. For a tier 2, to guarantee the trait, you need to use 900 blessing. But that's only when you're using the lower tier item to increase that trait. It will always be 100% when you're using the same tier. So the idea behind this system is that we want to get the equivalent amount of blessings saved up on an item so that when we transfer that item into a tier 2, we have the blessings available to use tier 1 materials to full trait that item. One of the questions that I got was what about the current gear that you've got equipped? Because you can only transfer into an epic once. You can't transfer multiple times into the same piece of gear. So what we do to circumvent this is we chain the trait transfer. So if we look at doing this, this is the item that I intend to stack blessing on. I can transfer my current equipped gear, which is full traded, and I will gain 1320 blessing. That will then take this item to +9 with 1320 blessing. That item can then be transferred into the tier 2 and all of the blessings transfer across. So what we're doing with this item is we're stacking blessings on it. We're going to get it stacked up. Then we're going to transfer my existing gear into this and then this into the tier 2. So there's a little bit of maths involved because you need to factor in the fact that you're going to be transferring your existing gear and getting 1320 blessing. Then when you transfer this, providing that it is fully max traded, regardless of which traits they are, as long as it's fully max traded, when you transfer this into the tier 2, you will also gain another 1320 plus the remaining blessings that are on this item. So the idea is that we want to be at 8,100 blessing in total including this item being fully traded and transferred into the tier 2. So if you think about it this way, you need 8,100 blessings in total. We can take away the 1,320 from transferring your existing full traded gear into the blessing item, and you can take away another 1,320 for transferring the fully traded blessing item into the tier 2, which leaves you needing to build a total of 5,460 blessing on this piece of gear. This will then allow you to transfer this into the tier 2 and have enough blessings to fully trade the tier 2 item using tier 1 materials. And that's why I'm saving up to make sure that I have 3 tier 1 melee evasion, 3 tier 1 ranged evasion, and 3 tier 1 max health traits, all of the epic version obviously, for each piece of gear that has those traits. Or if it's a piece of gear that uses different traits, it will have the equivalent traits saved up. And I'm making sure that I have those available. And I also have 5,460 blessing stacks on each piece of armor. And that's the helm, the chest, the cloak, the legs, and the gloves. The accessories won't matter because we won't be getting those until Talandra when 3-star dungeons come out. And that's where a lot of the confusion around the dimensional contract tokens came in. 1-star that we currently have and 2-star dungeons use the same dimensional tokens. There is just an increase in the cost for those. And the Talandra 3-star dungeons that come much later will have a new dimensional token. So we're not bothering with accessories at the moment, which means we can still sell accessories to gain Lucent. We can still lithograph accessories, we can still trait extract accessories, and that's where we're going to get Lucent from to help supplement the drops that we get. But then ultimately we're going to be relying a lot on the drops that we have to boost these traits. Now, another thing that's been raised is, well, what happens when this piece of gear is fully traded? If you have this piece of gear and you succeed when you're going through this process and you end up fully trading this piece of gear, but you don't have the 5,460 blessing stacks that you need, what do you do? Because ultimately you can't go any further. Well, one of the things that people seem to not realize with this is that you can change this trait. So if this trait gets to max and I still need to build blessings, I can go to trait conversion, and for 25 conversion stones and a different trait that I don't already have on the gear, I can reset the trait. If health regen is max and I use this trait conversion, I will then have ranged evasion that will be at 1 and need to be upgraded again. And that's going to allow me to continue the process of building blessing stacks on this piece of gear. So with that process, we're going to be able to go through this, keep slamming items in until we get to the 5,460 blessing stacks that we need. Now, I'm not saying that this is a quick, easy, or something you're going to be able to do process. It is going to take time. You are going to need to be conscious of the items that you have and the items that you're going to keep, and making sure that you're doing this. But storage doesn't need to be an issue so much if whenever you get the traits that you need, you start using them on the item. And then just keep in mind that you will be looking at potentially re-rolling some of these traits. And to use this item as an example, if I get any of the evasion traits, so any ranged evasion chest pieces, I will hold on to them because I know that I'm going to potentially have to re-roll this into ranged evasion in future to continue blessing stacking. Hopefully this helps to clear up kind of some of the understanding on that whole process of blessing. Before I finish the video though, I do just want to touch on the fact that there is a way that you can utilize this same system for tier 1. Now, what I would look to do with accessories, which are particularly expensive, is I would look at having a bad trait, so health regen for example, on a ring, and I would use that to build blessing stacks to then do your skill damage boost and things. And an example of this can be seen with my ring, the Etched Alabaster. It has health regen on it. I've never bothered to change this trait because I still feel that it's not cost effective to do it. But ultimately I used the health regen to build fail stacks or blessing stacks. Once I got to 450, I used a blue skill damage boost and then guaranteed that trait upgrade, and I continued that process. Once the health regen was maxed, I re-rolled the trait and continued it again. And then the plan with this is I will re-roll the trait again from health regen to max health, and then I will fully trait max health. This is the process that I followed with all of my accessories, because accessories are the most expensive to do it. But you can still use this process in tier 1 for any piece of gear. I used it on Tevent, and I used it on pieces of my armor. Understanding the blessing system can effectively save you a lot of lucent in the long run, but it's no more important than when we're looking at tier 2. Tier 2 is where it's going to be most impactful and where it's going to be the most important thing to understand, because you have a lot of time now to prepare. Because you have that time and you have this information, it's entirely up to you whether you choose to utilize this or not. Like I said at the start of the video, this is not a simple quick system. You can use the 100% tier 2 chance and throw those into your armor if you want. The reason that I'm doing it this way is because, as we already know, prices drop off very quickly in this game. I made a lot more lucent for a lot less sales than you can currently make in the game. The plan in tier 2 will be exactly the same. I will sell off desirable traits, because I won't need heavy attack weapon traits, I won't need crit weapon traits, I won't need evasions, I won't need endurance for armors. Because I'm taking these steps now, I will be able to sell those traits instead when tier 2 does release sometime next year. I'm giving you this information so that you have that available in your arsenal to be able to compete with people. I don't have to share this information with anybody. It's gatekept information. Korean veterans know about this system and use this system in tier 1, and that's more of the reason why people are ahead than ever spending on lucent. People think that everybody that's fully geared is a whale that has spent thousands on the game. That's just not the case. We know about these systems and we've implemented these strategies. I'm choosing to share this with you, so hopefully as a community we can grow, everybody can enjoy the game more, and can find the more effective ways to progress their gear. Hopefully this clarifies everything regarding the blessing system for you. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section and hopefully I'll be able to answer them for you. Cheers.